right. Thank you so much for inviting me today. And gosh, Darlene, you pretty much gave my whole life story in that couple of minutes. So I'm typically an extrovert, for any of you who know me, but things like this do make me nervous. So I do have a couple of notes here, so please give me some grace so that I could just kind of stick to what I wanted to talk about today. As Darlene said, I was born and raised in Kenosha. I was educated as a graphic designer. I did magazine work in my career there, which actually brought me to Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
So it was in Knoxville that I got married and had my first son, and at that time, family here really wanted us to come back, right? So I know that there are a lot of business owners in here. I'm just going to give you a little bit of some personal information about myself, just so that you see kind of the journey, because I know everybody in here has had their own journeys, and what's really nice is when you get older, you can reflect back, and it lets you kind of understand, like, wow, I guess all of this made sense to where you are today. So we were in Knoxville and wanted to move back, and I, again, was a graphic designer at that time, and my husband was the one that wanted the business. So I don't know if any of you have partners in here or are in business with your spouse or sisters, but sometimes it's not always your idea. But because we were moving back and I had this toddler, I did not want to have a commute, right? So I thought, well, you know what, this could be a good thing. It would give me some flexibility. You know, I could set my own hours. And of course, all of us who have opened up a business are thinking, what the heck? It could be so easy. Like, how hard would it be, right? So we did decide to move back. Now, this is the part that I'm still so emotional about it. My mother died a week before we moved back. And so she would have been 48. She died of a pulmonary emboli, which was a real sudden thing. But also, just, you know, from some background, because I know, again, all of us, you see people or know people, and half the time you really don't know what their background is. And I know all of us have gone through different times in our lives where it just seems like everything happens at once. So I was about 31, and I had a new baby and husband and moving cross country and gonna start a new business, and then had lost my mom at that time. So when I think back to to starting the business, that's always part of my journey. And I think that there was a blessing in that, being very busy at that time. For any of us who have gone through the loss of somebody and your grief process, it was very nice to be busy. So John and I decided to plow through and open up Seebeck Gallery. We started downtown Kenosha in the old LEP building. Maybe some people in here that remember the LEP building, which was just a beautiful building, right? And then the city was going to put in the Harbor Park and the trolleys. So that building that we were in was going to get torn down. So we had to move, which was all good, right? One door closes, another door opens. So we moved out to Pleasant Prairie, which is kind of by Iguanawana right now, off of Highway 50. And some of you may know that. And we were there for 20 years. And when we moved out there, of course, that was in 1998, I think, which there wasn't much going on out there.
Mostly fields.
Mostly fields, yeah. So it was a great location for us, though, because that whole part of the city was growing, and so we were there for 20 years. And then in the interim, like Darlene said, we had opened up a second location in downtown Racine too. Our lease came due for the Pleasant Prairie store in 2019, and at that time we had heard about all of the construction that was going to be going on Highway 50. So Highway 50 had a 2-year project to widen the street. So again, for a lot of you who are in business or have been in business, you're like, oh my, gosh, how are we going to swing this? you kind of look at numbers, think different ways to advertise, how do you get customers in, all of that. Well, long story short, it just didn't seem to make sense, so we did decide to close. And I remember we turned our keys in January of 2020. So I'm gonna go back and say January of 2020, because as you all know, a couple months later, the world pretty much stopped. And I couldn't believe, they say timing is everything, but I walk a faith line and truly believe that there was some planning there on my behalf, which was truly a blessing for us. Is there anybody in this room that started a business right at the beginning of the pandemic? No, huh? No. But there were businesses. I remember the Apis wanted to open up, and that was in March, and so there were quite a few businesses that were not as fortunate for that. So I kind of just shut down. I helped my husband keep the custom framing portion going. I ended up picking up a job being a small business coach, and just kind of not knowing what I was going to do. This was the first time, I think, in my whole life that I didn't really have a plan. I think a lot of us are strong women, independent women, kind of like control, especially when you're an entrepreneur, right? You kind of like to have all your ducks in a row. So I just sort of really just kind of took some breaths, took a pause, and just thought, I am just gonna let it be and see where we end up on this. So I enjoyed a couple of months of quiet time, and also the opportunity to help other small businesses. And then all of a sudden, I was approached by Jockey to see if I would have any interest in this new project that they were pursuing. And that really surprised me. I was very honored and surprised to be approached like that. But honestly, I had to think about it because I had kind of taken that pause, and I thought, wow, this is really kind of, this is really kind of nice. But the mission behind which is the old Jack Andrea store. So how many of you shopped at the Andrea store? Right? So you all know what a beloved store that was, what a wonderful family. That store had been in business for over 100 years, and they were on their 4th generation operator. So it was quite a landmark, right? Wouldn't you call it a landmark here in Kenosha? So the family was very happy that Jockey had purchased the building. And also, I thought this could be just a wonderful opportunity for me to really have all of that background in retail, and then also to be able to kind of implement this new store. The new store was supposed to, and I hope it does, have some reminiscence of the Jack Andrea store. We did keep the cafe, we kept the humidor and the gifts. So not much has changed. It's wonderful to have Jockey as a corporate citizen to take that beautiful 100-year-old building under their wing. They've done remodeling upstairs for offices. There was a little bit of remodeling done on the 1st floor. So really the mission is to keep that store going for people to come in and remember when they were there before, but to also kind of create new memories, bring in those next generations, and to enjoy a malt or a shake that are all made by hand, right? Just kind of take a step back, touch, feel, shop. We have the cigar events, just like the Andrea store did. So for me, I had all these different doors that had closed, buildings being sold or torn down or just decisions. And it took me so many years, so many years to just realize that I can't plan everything. And really, the stuff that I don't plan ends up being like the biggest jewel in my life. And the gratitude for that. So I'm here to answer any questions, but thank you so much for letting me talk about myself. I do appreciate that, and I'm willing to answer anything if anybody's got anything.
Do you have good Kenosha t-shirts?
We do have Kenosha hometown wear. We have t-shirts and sweatshirts. Funny thing about the t-shirts, for a little fun fact, so Jockey doesn't have a ton of colors in just their everyday tees, so we looked at other brands for our hometown wear.
Wow.
But Jockey took the brands that we had discovered and they put them through their Jockey wash test. So Jockey has their protocol, how they go through all their fabrics. And so we had 5 different brands, and so the brand that made it through the wash test is the brand that we do carry.
Wow.
But that is funny because I'm constantly building on that category of Kenosha, just souvenirs, t-shirts, that type of thing. I had no idea that. I know that this sounds terrible, but when I graduated from high school, I left Kenosha.
You didn't take anything with
And
you.
I thought, there is no way, right? Debbie's back, right? We graduated together. I was like, I am never going to be back in Kenosha. But I've been back now over 30 years, and I just love the way that it is embraced. People are proud of Kenosha. They want Kenosha wear. They want to have, that memento of Kenosha. So.
A question, Kathy, you have a question?
How about a tent sale? Are you going to continue with the tent sales?
Well, Kathy, we haven't even been open for 2 years yet, so. Right? There's always a possibility. There's always a possibility. We do typically have some type of an end of summer sale, whether it's in a tent or not, is to be. Yeah. Hi.
Tell us about your business downtown.
So that is the framing portion of Seebeck Gallery, and that when we decided to close the Pleasant Prairie location, we had a lot of customers reach out and say, "Oh gosh, I wish that you were still at least doing your framing." And we had a studio downtown anyhow, and so John did continue to keep that business going. And so my husband does operate that frame shop, which is across from the old Kenosha News, so Herzing is there. So he is, I've got to keep him busy. I'm working full time, so he's got to be doing something, right? Thanks, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki.